here with Project Nerd, and it is time for another episode of Press Play. Now, recently, we've been doing a series on films that are going to be shown at the Dances with Films Film Festival, and today, my friends, is no different. We are joined by a filmmaker duo here, David and Lexa. What's happening?
How's it going, man?
Hey, how's it going?
Very excited. Very excited to chat. I love science fiction. I love fantasy. I am a film nerd. I am a nerd.
Yeah.
And I feel like what you guys have put together kind of encompasses all of those things. So I'm excited to chat with you in general. I'm excited to kind of see what makes this film tick. Now, your film is called Desert Sky, correct?
Correct.
Okay. You know, do you want to hear something weird about me? Ever since I was a kid, I've always had an issue with when I read the word desert, I still want to say dessert.
Oh.
Because as a kid, that was like the hardest thing, right? Like desert and dessert. And so for about, we'll just say too long after reading the title of this film, I was like, dessert film. Okay, Desert Sky. Let's watch it. I watched it and I'm like, when does the dessert come into play? So that's just me
delicious
being ridiculous.
Yeah,
it would totally. I was like, this is a real bait and switch situation.
We were promised eclairs and cakes. You got sand.
I know. I was like, there's none of that. There's a lot of sand. No, I'm very excited about.
Yeah. No, I was just going to say, I learned in middle school that dessert has 2 S's because you want more.
I know, same. So, but every time, still read it that way. Doesn't matter. Well, and maybe it's just where like my brain goes. It's like wishful thinking. I'm always thinking about dessert rather than deserts.
You got that sweet.
But I'm super jazzed on this short that you guys put together. So despite my predisposition for loving dessert, this film has nothing to do with that, and instead it has a lot to do with kind of this sci-fi fantasy world that you guys have developed. So I would love to know, A, where did this idea come from? And B, where did this idea come from?
Yeah, well, this is definitely our most ambitious project to date, without that goes without saying. I'd say the idea started because we're dating. We've been together for 7 years now, and so kind of awesome. Director, writer, actress, producer, match made in heaven. And so my challenge was creating a new female heroine, and we knew that's something that we had always wanted to tackle. Strong, dynamic female characters is something that's just been like a mission of ours since we started working together. And so to develop a character who was maybe coming from the wrong side of the world and having to prove that she can be better, be it a better mother, a better wife, a better daughter-in-law, a better person. So coming up with a world to fit a story like that. And at the time, it was the coronavirus pandemic. We had social unrest. Everything about the world was just so bleak and hopeless. And so we were like, you know what? Let's get people out of their houses. Let's get people out of this planet. Let's go somewhere else where we can kind of tackle those themes, but almost in a safe space where we're outside of today's world, because it was just no bueno. Still isn't.
Yeah, we needed something new and something fresh. Well, let's talk about that for a minute, because I love hearing, as weird as it is, everybody now, I feel like universally has a pandemic story. Like everybody, every single person experienced the pandemic differently, and that's fascinating to me, because we've done a ton of these interviews and everybody's experience was different. There are similarities, of course, but everybody kind of has their own unique kind of situation and take. So, a little birdie told me that this production company was kind of birthed from the pandemic. Is that correct?
Absolutely. So we had been making little projects together and getting a little bigger each time and being a little more ambitious every time. And it was actually in the beginning of 2020, just when like the pandemic was starting, I actually was rushed to the hospital for an emergency surgery. Almost perished. It was pretty scary. And she was there with me every step of the way for 19 days in the hospital, actually. And when I came out of that, it was quite a recovery time. And right as I was getting back into living, we got shut down. So I lost my job. We lost everything we had going on. Everything that we were about to do pretty much got stopped in its tracks. You know, our last film that we had finished, there's no festivals going on. There was nothing to do. So that's when we were like, well, we're stuck in my 250 square foot studio apartment in Hollywood, you know, and now this is our new home. So what are we going to do? And that's when, you know, the imagination really takes off. And that's when we were like, let's take these stimulus checks, let's get this unemployment, and let's build something for ourselves, you know?
When most people are stimulating their Amazon cart, you're stimulating your creative, you know, juices. And I love that. I love that.
Yeah.
What's so interesting is we've talked to a bunch of different filmmakers that had different processes kind of like during the pandemic. But what I've been fascinated by is a lot of people, while some were like, I didn't work at all, like I couldn't be creative, I was too upset or depressed. The kind of majority consensus has seemed to be, man, I had time to do all the weird stuff that I never like had time to do normally. And so I just went with it. Like, I've got nothing but time. So I'm just going to, you know, chase all those weird pipe dream ideas that I had.
Exactly.
And so I will say that, you know, starting a series, because after watching this short, this definitely, sets up a much bigger world, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, it definitely is setting up a much deeper and richer story. That's an ambitious thing to do. You know what I mean? Instead of just doing a standalone kind of closed-ended short film or story, instead it very much was like setting up, all right, and tune in. I felt like I wanted to go and tune in next week to see.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So how was that versus the other projects that you guys have kind of put together and worked on? How was doing something like that obviously has a continuation point? How was taking on a project like that?
So here we were, right? We don't know what's going to happen. We don't know anything, you don't know anything is going to happen in the world at that point. Everything is uncertain. But what we saw immediately was film festivals were not going to be in person, right? So we knew that we had been making short films with the idea of getting to features, and it was we had never done anything episodic wise. But we knew that there was like going to be this opening for people who are going to want to watch things that continue. They're going to want to tune in and get new stuff because everything was on hold. Everything was on pause. And so we saw an opportunity there to say, why don't we make something that has episodes to it and have a bigger world? That way we can make it, release it to people, try to get it out there, and try to get people when that episode ends. And, like you said, it makes you want to go, what's next? What's next? And we are hoping to get that out to the world and try to continue something happening. And then obviously by the time we finished, festivals started coming back out. So we were like, okay, maybe we'll stop at the festivals for a little while, but yeah, it was the fact that festivals were not happening, and it felt like closed short films just was going to kind of go nowhere for a while. So we wanted something that people could engage with and want to know what happens next.
I love that. There's a saying, I'm not a sports guy if my glasses and nerdy things didn't give it away already. But I know, crazy.
Oh,
but there is a very famous quote by, I am told, one of the greatest hockey players of all time, Wayne Gretzky. And I love it. And that quote is, it's not about where the puck is, it's about knowing where the puck is going to be. Right. Yeah. And I feel like that kind of applies to your thinking in that moment, right? You're not thinking about like, how have things worked traditionally? You were thinking outside of the box about like, okay, well, what happens when this kind of grows stagnant? What's the next play? And I like that. I think that's super smart and creative. Now here's the question. Have you guys gotten to screen this yet in front of people? Speaking of digital kind of stuff. So this is going to be the first time.
Dances with Films will be our world premiere.
That's so amazing. Are you excited to see it with
really
people?
Excited? Yes, absolutely.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
It's been a long time coming. And so we're ready. We're ready.
Nice. Excellent. Excellent. So what's kind of the next step now that this, like we said, obviously sets up a larger world? are you guys already working on planning the next kind of stage in this, the next episode? Where can I see the next episode and when?
Talk to all the investors out there watching.
Yeah,
right now.
right. Well, this ended up being much more ambitious than we initially thought it was going to be. Like filming in the desert every single day with like 35-mile-per-hour winds, 90-degree heat that felt like 110. We had a 9-year-old out there. We were all surviving within this one camper and a few tents for safety between setups and getting a little bit of shade. So, and then during the pandemic, everybody was working remotely. So we had a really long process of putting this all together. There's 78 VFX shots in the film. So we didn't realize the magnitude of how the scope of the project would become.
Sure.
So, we have developed the world. David has a world filled with lore and myth and how these people came to this planet and how these relationships developed and how our protagonist met her husband and they had this child and all of the relationship drama between like the two houses. It's kind of like a fated love story, Romeo and Juliet situation. So,
which is always good. I love a good ill-fated romance.
Yeah,
definitely.
Some star-crossed lovers up in here,
Totally.
So we have the pitch Bible, we put everything together, and we've just been letting our imaginations run wild with what is this as a continued web series? What is it if it's a half hour? What if it's an hour? Just coming up with anything so that when the right person or the right team or the right anything comes along, we're just ready to continue telling that story. And as you can tell, we kind of drop you right in the middle of the story with this. It is a pilot, but at the same time, you can tell there's stuff that came before this, and there's definitely stuff that comes after the events in this series. So
as kind of a fan of this genre in general, I will say I appreciated that. So many times you watch something and the first if I'm talking about a 30-minute show, the first 15 to 20 minutes is exposition and setup. Here's the world. Let me spoon feed you who these characters are. I don't mind a series just kind of dropping me in the middle of it and being like, you're going to have to figure it out as it goes. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yes, definitely.
We drop lots of clues that we hope, make you want to know more. Right. And instead of, like you said, spoon feeding it, it's just in media res. We just wanted to throw you right inside the world and make you catch these clues and say like, well, how did they get here? Who are these people? Hopefully not confuse anybody, but it should be hypnotic in a sense that you come into this world of magic and danger and love and family and all these things going on that are just so such good themes that we love to work with.
Totally. And like, David as a writer he writes these like beautiful poetic scenes that I feel like are subverting, sometimes the sci-fi genre, which is really exposition based and based sort of in these foreign cold worlds. But this really brings us into the hearts of the characters immediately. You're dropped into them in the height of like really emotional circumstances. And so I feel
that's really nice.
Yeah. Just like, really,
like, wow. It was really nice.
Yeah. It's this beautiful humanity, which I think definitely subverts the genre. And that's why like, I love it. I love the moments in sci-fi where it's about the characters' deeper needs.
Sure.
Still human. Human.
I dig that. And you can definitely tell, that a lot of care that I think that's one of the things that is usually a pretty like fine line to walk when you kind of drop someone in the middle, like you said, because it can go one of two ways. If you have not fleshed it out enough, then you can't connect with the characters and you don't understand what's going on and you're just lost.
Right.
If you flesh it out just enough, then you get that desire to know more, but you also don't feel lost and you do feel a connection to the characters. And so I will compliment you on that. I do think that was something you did successfully, both from an acting standpoint and also from a writing standpoint. I think that it was very easy to connect to the characters right away. I mean, you have a quick 10-minute runtime. So it's important that you are able to like understand kind of the plight and what's going on, and then also kind of care about these characters. I'm a sucker for a kid in a film anyway. I'm a dad.
Yeah.
So I think that's a solid way to kind of like ingratiate yourself to the audience. And anytime there's a kid in play, people are automatically like, oh, okay, yeah, they're parents looking after the kid. I get it. People can relate to that, you know? I do want to ask from a filmmaking standpoint. I always think it's funny, and it's been on my mind a lot lately since I don't know if you guys have seen the Ewan McGregor interview about the new Obi-Wan Kenobi series coming up, and he's defending the Star Wars prequels. And in his defense, he's like, listen, it was very difficult acting with nothing, right? Like we were in green room studio or green screen studios. I'm interacting with props that aren't there. There are clearly, like you mentioned, a ton of VFX shots in this. There's people interacting and reacting to things. How is that from a performance standpoint? How is that when you're trying to, you know, ground a performance and make it realistic, but you're essentially doing nothing with nothing?
Well, let me just start off by saying we had no previs, right? So we didn't have like, I couldn't show them exactly what things were. I had things drawn on my storyboards. I am not an artist in that way, you know? And so a lot of it was just like, hey, you got to look out there, and it's like, there's a glowing city over there, you know, and there's a moon planet over there, you know, and it's like, it's magical, you know, and it's like, you know, those sorts of things, like, you know, I just had to trust, and they just had to trust me, and we just had to like make believe out there, you know? And so I had nothing to show them by way of like, this is exactly what it's going to be. So be ready for it.
This is how you're going to react. This is what you're seeing.
Right. You know, so we just had to trust each other out there and through the elements and everything. And by the way, when I'm telling you to look over at that moon planet, we are on top of a 60-foot cliff, and there is going to be like 40-mile-an-hour wind blowing rocks and sediments into your eyes
while you're staring directly into the sun.
Because there's a sun there, by the way, because I need the light. So you're going to look directly into the sun, like science tells you to do, and it's beautiful, and it's supposed to be soft, you know. Yes. So just don't worry about it. But what about you for acting?
Yeah, you know, I actually really loved how I fit into the VFX, like how my performance fit into the VFX. I thought that everything that I had done was really effective. And of course, like David and I rehearsed a lot. We had a few rehearsals with our cast, and I felt like that was a really crucial part of our process, and we were really lucky that we got to do that. You know, during the pandemic, we met in parks.
Yeah, even though we had to be like 10 feet away from each other, because like we didn't know these people were like, we would just cast them. You know, like we emailed, but we weren't like close. They weren't in our bubble by any means. You know,
totally.
We had to do everything as safe as possible. Like we knew the gravity of what was going on, and we had all different ages, you know, involved. So we had to make sure that like we were as safe as possible, and everyone felt as comfortable as possible during that process.
Yeah, but also just coming from a theater background and, you know, acting in black box theaters, I feel like when you're in the elements, no matter what's in front of you, like you're feeling the vibe. This was the first like on location shoot that we had done together. And when I was out there, I mean, I've never had so much energy in my life. The dedication that I felt, I felt a force inside of me with the elements to just take on this world that I could see in my mind, you know? So
that's fun. I feel like that's like, that is ultimate adult, like playtime. Like you're
absolutely
like, I'm going to use my imagination, and I'm going to like, this is what's happening. I love that. I think that's a ton of fun. I do think it shows in the film. I agree. I think your performance mixed with the VFX melded really well. It looks very good. It's very fun. Totally. 100%. So I have to ask this. Obviously, you care a little bit about the genre of science fiction, of fantasy. What's your favorite like sci-fi film?
Favorite? So like I've always been like,
if you were stranded in the desert.
Yeah. this one maybe
I know which one.
This one maybe sci-fi, a little more fantasy. This was the first movie I ever loved. It's Hook by Steven Spielberg.
Oh, I love that movie for sure.
And that was it for me. Like as a child, like once I saw that, it was like
I think I have. Oh yeah, I do. I have.
You got to throw in there, my man.
Boom.
Boom! Hey, the VHS.
Love to see it. We love to see it. We love to see it. That was like I saw that in theaters as like a baby, and then it was like I made my mom take me to Blockbuster. I'm dating myself every single day to rent that movie. There's videos of me in cowboy boots doing the fight scene between Peter Pan and Captain Hook, butt naked. Nice. That exists, and so it's like that has always that kind of world building, that kind of like emotional draw where there's magic and adventure and family and love. Like you'll see all those themes in Desert Sky. And if you trace my origin story, like it all starts with Hook. So I'm gonna go with Hook.
I can appreciate that so much. I will say, like, just a casual name drop. When I was first kind of coming up doing press interviews and doing convention support and stuff, I got to meet Dante Bosco, who played Rufio in
Wow.
And that was like a huge moment for me. I wanted to be like Bangarang, you know. Like, it was crazy. So I totally understand the love for Hook. 100%.
Love that.
Here's a question that I've been asking people recently, because we're talking about people are going to be able to go see your film in person at the Chinese theater, which is a huge deal and awesome. When theaters started to open back up, what was the first movie you went and saw back in theaters? Or have you seen a movie since they?
Oh, hell yes. We go every week.
We go see movies. That's like the one thing. You know what I mean?
Same.
Like,
I have I don't know if they're not promoting the show, but I'm going to plug them anyway. I have a AMC movie pass, which is like $20 a month, and I can go see as many movies as I want in a month.
Oh,
and so I have a standing reservation every Thursday. I pick a new release that's going to come out. So totally get that.
Love it. Do you remember what our first one was?
To be honest, I think this is going to be kind of kismet, but you can correct me if I'm wrong. But I do believe, did we see In the Heights in the Chinese theaters? Was that our first movie back?
That might have been one of. I remember the last movie.
Oh my God, no! You know what was my first movie? Oh, this is going to be really lame, but mine was a movie that I was actually in. It was the first feature film. I shot it before the pandemic. And then I actually flew to Boston because theaters were open in Boston. And I saw myself on the big screen for the first time with my dad. It was Fatale, a Deon Taylor female-driven thriller with Hilary Swank, and I got to work with Hilary Swank for the day. Yeah, and that was the first film I saw back.
That's the best like going back to the theater experience that I've heard so far. And I've asked a bunch of people, but nobody has been able to answer. I went and saw a movie that I was in. Amazing! I
know,
and congratulations to that.
Thank you so much. As we're walking out of the theater, there was only one other couple in the theater, and they go, "Oh my God, were you in the movie?" And I was like, "I was."
Like I was, and this is my first movie back.
Yeah.
And they recognized her through the hazmat suit that she was wearing.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Now, David, were you there as well for this?
I was not. I think at that point, was I in Florida at that point?
Probably, yeah.
I might have been like finally going to see my.
So then that means you have a different first movie back.
Yeah. So mine probably then like was. I know the last movie before the pandemic we saw was 1917 because like I have the ticket stub for that, and so I know that was the last movie.
It will go down in infamy.
Infamy, yeah. You know what I mean? That's framed right there. But I would imagine. I think if timing is right, I think Into the Heights at
the Chinese theater. So another kismet moment.
Yeah,
that's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, you guys are blowing my mind here. And now I have a question then I want to ask. For In the Heights, A, what'd you think of it? And B, was it a worthy first movie back?
Yeah, honestly, one of my favorite experiences seeing a film. I know every single lyric to the opening number.
Yes.
Oh God, Anthony Ramos he transcended. I actually saw Lin-Manuel Miranda's final performance on Broadway. So that film holds a huge place in my heart.
I love it. I have to say, and Lynn, if you're watching this, which I hope you are, like, please watch this. But if you are watching this, I have to say, I think Anthony's performance, I think he's a better Usnavi. I think it fit him. I think he like wore the character in a different way.
Absolutely.
And I really dug it. Like it really, like I really connected with his portrayal. I liked that movie a lot. I have one gripe about it, and we just got to throw it out there. Since we're all film lovers, film appreciators, filmmakers. I have to say, the one thing that I took issue with was I thought that there was an extraordinarily large amount of unnecessary CGI in that film.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I thought even the one that draws the biggest memory is Anthony walking down the street and he steps on gum and the gum like strings on his shoe. And it's super CGI. And I was like, that's weird. That would be a pretty easy practical effect to like string some gum on your shoe. It just seemed like so there were like little things throughout the film where I was like, well, that's a weird unnecessary VFX shot. That's a weird unnecessary VFX shot.
Yeah, but on north of 96th Street, they have CGI gum.
Necessary, and it was awesome. 100%.
Yeah.
When they're walking down the street and they're like waving their hands in the air and they're like cartoon drawings are appearing of what they're talking about. 100% on board with that. 100% on board with that.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
That does go to show you that like every movie, whether it's a fantasy, sci-fi or not now, like is going to have CGI in it. So like for any filmmakers getting into it, it's like, you got to figure out how to do it and embrace it, you know, and maybe be easy on the gum CGI, but otherwise, you know.
Now I have to ask, seeing that your film had a lot of VFX, a lot of CGI VFX, should, let's say in a dream world, right? Somebody backs up that proverbial dump truck of money to you guys and is like, hey, let's make this a full on, you know, hour long series. Let's say Netflix pulls up and is like, they open up their wallets for you.
Yeah.
A lot of your effects are CG currently. Are you a practical effects guy or are you a CG effects guy?
Listen, you know, ultimately, it's what tells the story, you know, and it is about the emotion and the pathos and what's going on in the story. That's first and foremost. If I had my druthers legitimately, yes, like more stuff would be practical. I'd love to mix the two. My dream is to work on sets, you know, and like I want to work on an Unreal Engine. I want to take my cast and bring them into, you know, where they shoot the Mandalorian, and I want to put some sand down and protect them and have more control, you know, and so I think using technology is amazing when you can add that practical element though. And you know, I love, like, I'm a huge Terry Gilliam fan who, you know, opts as much as possible to make things practical, because if you're trying to tell a human story, humans make mistakes, things humans make wear down, they don't move perfectly all the time. And so whenever you have that practicality mixed with some CGI, humans will just relate to it better. So if possible, anywhere we can make it real, it's going to just sell so much better. But you can do that different ways, even with just like matte paintings on glass, just to enhance things, going back through film history.
You're talking my language. There was a series that used to come on, I think it was Discovery Channel when I was younger and I was growing up, and it was called Movie Magic.
Oh,
and I highly recommend yourselves, anybody who's watching this right now, go YouTube Movie Magic. They have the old episodes. They had like a behind the scenes of the making of Cabin Boy, that comedy movie that came out in the early 90s. They had Hocus Pocus. They had Independence Day. But it basically just followed all of the special effects. That's what the entire movie was, or the entire series was about, was like watching the puppeteers make the miniatures and watching the VFX people do early days computer animation. It was awesome.
I love that. Filmmaking is a magic trick, right? And the thing I've learned through making movies is every time I peer behind that curtain to figure out how the magic trick is done, the illusion is never spoiled for me. It only becomes better. I'm only more impressed that they could pull off a trick like that, you know? And that's what's so cool. And just going back from the beginning of filmmaking, where they start using, you know, practical and visual effects and trickery, which has been going on forever, you know, because that's what you can do with film. That's just what keeps the magic of cinema alive, I think. So
I love it. Speaking of the magic of cinema, as we come to a close here, I have one big lingering question on my mind after watching your short film. Where are they jumping to when they go through that portal? Is it another planet? Here, just like like
Yeah.
ring a bell or say like ding 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 if I'm getting close. Planet, city, outer space, jungle.
Ooh, ooh, ooh. And well, I think that's the beauty of the world we built, and that is the beauty of the mystery. And I just don't. I think it would be a disservice to everyone coming to see us at Dances with
Totally
Films
fair.
to
That's
answer
totally
that
fair.
question with you right now. But when we get the next episodes made, we come back on here and we'll talk about it. And we'll see if
I
any of
was
your
gonna
guests.
say, or when we get done, you guys email me directly. I will keep my
No
little
paper
friend
trail,
on
man. No
the
paper
road.
trail.
I'll
I'm gonna
text
put it on Twitter. But thank you guys so much, David, Lexa. You guys have been awesome. You're a
Aw.
joy to sit down with. I'm excited for people to see your film. So let me make sure I got this date right. It's the 18th, June 18th at
June 18th.
3:45 at the Chinese Theater. People can check it out. They can go get tickets for it at danceswithfilms.com.
Mhm.
I absolutely recommend it. The film is Desert Sky, not Dessert Sky, as much as some of you may want to read it that way. There's no dessert in it. I'm sorry. There's just not. Spoiler
There's
alert.
not. Yeah.
There is zero crawlers in this movie at all. Zero.
Oh my
100%.
But a lot of steely looks.
Yes, 100%. A lot of steely looks. Some great sun staring in this film. A lot of sun staring. It's very, very good. You guys
Love
are super talented. I'm excited to see what comes next. Definitely when the series gets picked up, which I'm hoping it does, because I want to find out what's on the other side.
Hey!
When that happens, I want you guys to come back, sit down with me again, and then you can spoil the entire season run for me. You can
Awesome,
tell me
man.
where
Well, we
everybody's going. You can show me all the previs stuff.
Yeah.
But in the meantime, where can people find more about you guys?
So you definitely want to follow us at Seventh House Pro on Instagram. That's our production company. And then you can
Awesome.
follow me at Dave Hartstone.
And at Lexa Gluck.
So come check us
Awesome.
out.
Yeah.
Find us
and,
on the internet.
Yes.
and, our,
Well,
and our website too, seventhhousepro.com.
Yes. Boom. There it is. Everybody go check them out right now. Also, make sure you check out the film June 18th, 3:45, Chinese Theater, Dances with Films. They are one of a bunch of amazing short films and films that are going to be playing this festival. So definitely go check it out. I thank you guys so much for joining us.
Hey,
And
cute.
you guys stay tuned to the Project Nerd YouTube channel and website. That's project-nerd.com. Stay up to date on your favorite films, movies, music, comic books, you name it, we're there. And until next time, I hope to see you guys at the theater.